The Triple Trio with Hutchi, Richo and RS Dye. It's Hong Kong racing with the blinkers off.
Hello everyone, welcome to a huge edition of the Triple Trio, our weekly look at all things Hong Kong racing and world racing. My name's Jason Richardson. I'm alongside the best form analyst in Hong Kong in Hutch Buster and also the Hall of Famer in RS Dye. And Hutch, lots to talk about. Good results last week for you. Well done.
We did. Fortunately, our best bet got up on the weekend. Big Me, what a performance that was from Big Me. And you know, after missing the start, I thought this was an excellent debut. Be a horse to follow going forward, I think, because he hasn't shown that trait in missing the start. So he was well backed. And the tote, I think he was about 5s into 280, but he's a horse definitely, I think, to stick with and that we can trust. Amazing victory. I know Shane made a good case for this when he resumed. I presume he liked him on the weekend as well, but this was a much different sort of race. They went hard, and he was excellent up in grade, wasn't he? So he's come back thriving. We had passing fashion, I should say, during the week,
yes,
which was a nice result. Interesting track there. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I wasn't a typical C+3 track for mine, and he was a good performance as well at nice odds. So small loss on Wednesday in the units, but a pretty healthy profit on the weekend.
I'm loving the little hoodie that you've put together today.
So I wanted to highlight this. It's ZachPurton.com, a friend of the show, great friend of the show, and Zach has he's got a line of. Didn't realise he's had this big of a line of merchandise.
Mate, it's fantastic.
We've got all the merch out here, and Zach Purton. It's very good stuff, by the way. So
I've got a beautiful little hat that I'm running at the moment. Could you imagine? I mean, as big as Zach Purton is, could you imagine the range of merchandise from back in the day on Raymond Shane Dye? Hello, RS.
Hello, Richo. How are you? Very lucky to have you today, I'm told. I'm told you're doing one of the biggest lunches ever in Australia, and that's why you got the suit and tie and the head's puffed up.
I can lunch, as you know, RS. Did you turn a nice profit on Sunday, my friend?
I lost last Sunday, actually, but on Wednesday I had a very good night. I had one bet, Passing Fashion, whose first up run where he ran nowhere was excellent, and I thought he was way overs, and that was my only bet Wednesday. So had a good night Wednesday night. But last Sunday I actually lost. Just last Sunday there was a triple trio, not a triple trio, a 6-up, Richo.
Yeah.
And it should have paid $230,000. It wasn't hard to get. It actually paid $1.2 million because it was a bit of a bonus. And that was because Cordyceps 6 got beat, odds on. So they always pay more. And when there's a bonus, they can pay more. So if you're an Australian, don't realise, the 6-up can be a very good bet when there's a bonus.
Okay, I love the sound of that. There, you're watching the Triple Trio. We've got a huge show coming up. As always, we'll have a look at the Sweet in Defeat file for Hutchi. We'll try to find some future winners out of that file. And, of course, Genius or Slaughter with the one and only RS Dye, where he puts the jockeys under the microscope. He gives them a tick, or he gives them a, hey, you need to lift. Our very special guest is Stephen Higgins. We'll talk all about the racetracks in Hong Kong and also the great activities off the track as well. And we will find a stack of winners. We'll look at global racing, what was going through the mind of Christophe Soumillon. Lots to talk about. Let's burst out of the gates. And as we burst out of the gates, Shane, we start with Zach Purton in the National Day Cup. And Zach is our leading rider at the moment.
He's flying. There's a few boys riding all right. Luke Ferraris is going good at present. He's starting to go up the ladder. As I kept saying last week, Cordyceps 6, I thought he would win, but I just know first up he doesn't go any good, and he repeated it. He didn't go as good as he can. He'll come out second up and go better. I can't work out why, but he's done it 3 seasons now. He's got beat. Zach rode the winner well. He was probably going into the race the only horse that could beat him on his previous run, and he gave him a good ride up the straight, which wasn't hard to do in a small field, and he won.
Yeah, we don't like pumping up Shane too much, Hutch, but he absolutely nailed it last week.
He did.
When he kept saying, first up, I'm concerned about the fave.
Yeah, it was that niggling thing in the back of his mind, and you follow trends, and it's obviously served Shane well in the past. And look, it was a fair call. I agree with Shane. I think that Cordyceps will really lift off that performance. He was very good, and the market Yeah, that said, I thought Super Wealthy was sound, but that's his go. I think the straight, so I'm not sure that he'll be back up. I thought Skyfield was a lot better. I was happy to have a small investment on him. It just surprised me, Shane, that Skyfield jumped out of the stalls and was almost leading. So Luke clearly, bounced well for Luke Curry, but he ran okay under the weight. I thought under the circumstances, he's headed in the right direction as well.
Yeah, it could have been that it was a different race up the straight, whereas he's been going around the bend, and so they go to the start differently. So his mind might have been a little bit different. I know it sounds weird, but I always look for things that reasons why, and that's the reason I could think of. But Luke did nothing wrong on the horse once he jumped well, but that was unusual for him. Normally he gets back, but I think next start going back to Hutton 1,200 metres, you'll see him off the pace again.
So we've got some big injuries at the moment in the jockeys ranks. It's an opportunity for others. And Matthew Poon, the Poon train at the moment, Shane, is in really good form. A treble on Wednesday night.
Rode really well. Here's one of his winners, Happy Gathering, who had a good chance coming back to 1,200 after 1,400 metre run. Gave it a good ride, had in the right spot. He rode a horse called Noble, what was it, Buckland?
Noble Steed.
Noble Steed gave it a very good ride on the fence, come through. This horse was strong, good run. He raced well last season and backed it up. He's backed it up. He's gone ahead this season.
I'll tell you what, though, we noted on Wednesday, I did anyway, this was just my opinion, I don't know if Shane will agree or not, we've got 4 of the top 5 jockeys effectively on the sidelines. Gee, there were some races on Wednesday, Shane, where there was sort of some pretty ordinary rides, to be honest, some strange run races in terms of tactics early. We had some horses sitting wide. It wasn't a typical C3 track either. A lot of the horses were sitting deep and still performing. I'm not convinced about the rail. I know the first winner was on the fence, but this was not a typical C+3 course at the Valley. But I thought whilst Poon had a treble, well done to him, and he rode them well. There were a lot of ordinary rides, and there were some jocks that'll be, I think, going home and having a good look at themselves and hoping that they can produce better.
Richo, normally the track is huge, just huge, on-pace fence on the C+3, but it definitely wasn't on Wednesday night. I thought they rode absolutely disgraceful, and I've been rapping them lately. There were a lot of bad rides, and they can't work that track out because you haven't got far to go to the first turn. I got so many bad rides or horses that should have won. It's quite unbelievable on Wednesday night. And that's the first meeting this season I've seen it like that. And you put it down to the C+3. Now, why is the C+3 difficult to ride? It's because you haven't got far to the first turn. You got probably 80 metres less on the 1,200 metre track to the first turn than if you had on the A track. And jockeys just didn't make decisions and do one thing or the other, go back, go forward. They wanted to get across but sat wide. Doesn't matter if you sit wide because you're not going to get in most of the time on the C+3. But you've got to commit to what you're doing. And I thought they were pretty ordinary, and there's a lot of horses that got beat that should have won.
And we haven't spoken, Shane and I, leading from that meeting. No. This is completely independent. Like I was sitting watching, obviously, Wednesday night in disbelief in what I was witnessing on occasion, but I'm looking forward to his slaughter file now.
Oh, exactly. Because to be fair, he's been in a nice mood lately, and it's been disconcerting. It's not the Shane Dye we love.
Yes, that's right. And we're gonna see the real RS today.
Hey, give me a quick update. Don't even let him talk. We're gonna give us a quick update. Where is Joe Moreira at? And what about Karis Teaton?
Oh, obviously Joe's gonna have a few months off. He's got this serious injury, and he hasn't had the operation, but he's had some treatment but he's going to be out for a few months. And
so he decided not to operate.
He decided not to operate on the advice of some of the doctors. Here's some of the physio that he's got going on. Joe sent us along to him, but he's it's going to be a bit of a road back for him at the moment. And I think he's told me he's doing 3 hours of physio a day. You can see some of this. He was in a lot of pain. It's getting better, but it's going to be some time. And reading some stuff that we've also seen with Joe, he obviously wants to do some of his rehabilitation back in Brazil as well with the family, which is totally fair enough, isn't it? Really?
Understandable. I mean, he runs his own business, and his own business is Moreira Proprietary Limited. Whatever's best for him is what he needs to do.
Absolutely. So we wish him all the best. He's such an asset to all of us. He's a great guy, Joe, and our thoughts are with him. And
what about Karis? Where's Karis at?
Karis, I believe, about the middle of the month, they're hoping this thyroid issue. And I haven't spoken to Karis, but I believe that they're hopeful that he'll be back around the middle of the month, and he'll be itching to get back in the saddle.
And just quickly, would the Jockey Club consider some short-term contracts for other jockeys around the world, try to
There's no doubt.
incentivise them to come over?
They certainly would, but it's a bad time of year from an Australian point of view. They like to call in Australia often because I think just the geography of it helps them out, and naturally they can get there on pretty short notice. But they're all here with the spring now, so that'll be difficult. With the UK, perhaps, but they all seem to be, or Europe, they seem to be going to Japan.
What about a quick SOS to Opie Boston or someone in New Zealand who, the carnival's not quite as lucrative? Get over to Hong Kong.
Yeah, he's like a lot of those Kiwis. He doesn't really like to leave home, I don't think.
He's like wine. He doesn't like to travel.
Too heavy also, Richo. He's too heavy.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair point.
He doesn't ride under 57 now, more or less, which is just too heavy.
He's riding a really good one at Matter tomorrow. Keep your eye on him in the Hawke's Bay Guineas. We're going to jump into a file that I love. It's called Sweet and Defeat.
6th generation, Miraculous Honour, Super Sunny Sing and Regent Glory all in a line. He's going to dig into an empty hole here because Super Sunny Sing has grabbed him, but Super Sunny Sing.
So Hutch, Sweet in Defeat. So these are the Black Bookers. And we're going to add a new file in as well, the sort of the Money Muncher, the Money Catcher, maybe the Pac-Man style file as well. But let's start with the positives.
We've renamed the Money Muncher the Money Catcher file after his performance on the weekend.
Right.
We'll have a look at that in a moment. But look, One Voice was excellent. There was a good bit of market support around for him. But as we heard from Alexi Bedell last week, this horse, Beauty Tycoon, it was a good play for us. He got the right ride. He stepped him out. He put him in the perfect spot. And I think on the day it wasn't a bad place to be as well, where he was in the run at Sha-Tin. So he's definitely one to follow. You mentioned Opie Bossom. I think Jamie Richards would have liked him on Wednesday night, flying on the turf. He's definitely one to follow going forward. He was wide. It was a big run. It wasn't the normal penalty covering ground there, but Rattan Kingdom was probably the run of the night. Now, here's two that I'm not saying they won't win a race, but you'll burn a lot of money in the process, and one of them's Money Catcher. He had the softest run of all time when Zach peeled off the heels and was out-fought late on the weekend, and you can deal me out of him. He's had too many opportunities, and Big Two, I think he's been over bet a number of times as well. So that's why I see that. Shane, any thoughts on this? We're just going to have a look at the run from one Voice, actually. But this was a good run, given that Beauty Tycoon had a pretty good run in the race.
Yeah, he'll be winning soon. He went well last season. He's come back as good this season. I really liked him, but the other horse just had a better run. There's no doubt he's going to be winning races, Clint.
Well, I think the first two will be. I wouldn't mind following Beauty Tycoon. There's an interesting stat as well that we will bring up at some stage regarding John's size and gear changes. John doesn't like to use gear changes too often, but when he does, I take big notice, because when usually back in the day, and this is long day because he doesn't take horses off anyone in Hong Kong, he just brings his own in, but he has a very good strike rate, much better than the market expects when he applies gear changes. So he likes to start with a clean slate normally, but when he applies them, they usually have their impact. This is flying on the turf. This he just should have kept going forward here.
He wasn't going to get in probably, but he had to try. He probably should have, but he was still going to be used too much. Like the worst gate on the C+3 1,200 metres, and everyone thinks it's good as 6 and 7 around there. Gate 7 hardly ever wins. It's because you think you're going to get across, but because the rail is so close to the first turn, you just don't get across. You end up 3 deep. So you go out there, the trainer says, I just put him one off the fence running 3rd or 4th. You don't get in from gate 6. You end up 3 deep nearly every race. I saw a horse, Mega Bonus. It should have won. It was 3 deep from gate 4, and he had to press on. It wins for sure. So this happens all the time on the C+3, but as you're right, all of Jamie's horses run well. He had 3 runners, and they all went good, Clint, and this went really good, and he's a winner waiting to happen.
Yeah, he, like I said, if you commit, and he got him out the gates well, Luke, but then he sort of ummed and ahed a little bit into that turn. You just got to keep going. You see the likes of Purton and Morera, they'll just keep going. And yes, they'll get beat. They say, I had to work too hard. But don't get there and then think, oh, no, I'm going to have to do this, or I'm going to have to work too hard, because then it ends up a car crash anyway.
Jockey Championship, Zach Purton sits on 14, so early start of the season. Vincent Ho on 9, so Zach leading by 5. In the trainers, David Hayes leads by 1 over Cruz and Hughes, so he's on 8 and they're on 7, and Casper Found's on 6. Interesting though, Casper's 6 wins, 8 seconds. David Hayes, 8 wins, not one single second at the moment, RS Dye. So D.A. Hayes is just finding the right races for his horses at the moment.
He uses a sack a lot too. That helps.
Or does it?
Yes.
That helps.
I'll let everyone just sit on that and I'll let it marinate while we get to Genius and Slaughter.
They sweep for home now. Veandercross has come very wide. Veandercross answering the urgings of Shane Dye. Mannerism coming at him. Mannerism has got it.
Daring tactics by Shane Dye. He's got Octagonal in full flight on the corner. Bold tactics by Shane Dye are going to pay off, and he pinches the Chipping Norton.
Well, the file that you all love, but all the jockeys in Hong Kong sit and tremble at the thought. It is Genius or Slaughter. It is Ocky or Veandercross, and we start with the good ones. The Ockies, like RS Dye did with that brilliant ride in the Chipping Norton. Who tickled your fancy?
Well, this is unusual and people are probably going to disagree, but I'll put this up because I want to show the apprentices and the kids what you do when you miss the start on a horse. Here's Midori Beauty. It should have won it, run off in the straight. But watch Zach. He misses the start of 3 lengths, but he doesn't panic and he just gradually lets the horse build into a stride. Now, most kids riding in Hong Kong will be digging that horse to get up, pulling it, and then it'll run up on heels or try and race closer. And if it races closer, it can't win. When you miss the start like that, if you leave them alone, you've still got a chance to win the race. But as soon as you dig them to be closer, you've got no hope because you're relaxed, you got no horses around, and you just come out at the top of the straight, which Zach did. Unfortunately, the horse got lost and run around. You see him cut the corner, come out here. I thought that was a very good ride and one kids should watch when they miss the start, what to do. The one thing you don't do is dig them up.
Yeah, it's so true. I think
very well backed as well, wasn't he, Midori Beauty? Just here, Zach goes. Now, what happened there? He had the stick in the left hand, Zach, and the horse shifted out. What do you think that was down to?
Got no idea. The horse is very green. He misses the start sometimes he doesn't. He's learning. He's going to win races, but he doesn't know what it's about yet. He should have won for sure. We all know that.
Yeah, that was a sweet ride. So misses the kick, but then doesn't panic. All right. Who are the Slaughters? Who are the ones that caught your eye? And you had a big file, apparently.
I could have put 10 up there from Wednesday night. This is one of the worst you'll ever see. This is Ecuador, but it's why would you pull back in 1,000 metres when you got 135? He's coming back. I know he's going to be 3 wide, but on the C+3, you've got to be 3 wide up there. He's got 135 pounds. It's 1,000 metres. You're coming back. A brain snap, a big mistake, and he's been riding well. Couldn't win from there. Had no hope. He would have been better off 3 wide up there.
And the horse looked like he resented being pulled back as well.
Because he's not like that. He's a runner. I know he races in 1200s running 4th or 5th, but he wanted to be up there and he used him a bit early. You don't go forward and then pull back in 1,000. And it still went enormous, even though he ran nowhere. He still ran well. But once that happened, he had no hope in the world of winning. It was a brain snap. And he's, as I said before, he's been riding really well going forward. So I was shocked to see it. And as soon as he did it, I thought, oh, my God. And the horse didn't get beat that far. Here's another one. Now, this horse here, if you stop the film for a sec, I'll explain something. Now, you've got the favourite, the horse to beat on your outside up there called Nimble Nimbus, who wins the race. You're following a horse with 135 pounds who doesn't quicken, who's very well one pace, right? And when Nimble Nimbus goes, you've got to come off the fence and follow him. And Zach's behind you. Zach isn't going to keep you in on whatever he's on, David Hayes' horse, I think it was.
Capital Gain.
Come off. If you play it now, you see what I mean. But he sits there and waits, Harry, and he missed the boat. Here, he can come off and follow him. If he does that, he wins easy. Zach's way behind you. And when you're following the favourite in the race, or you've got it outside of you, I should say, you've got to follow the favourite, right?
Yeah.
So he's lost 3 to 4 lengths there, and now he's behind Zach. He's going to come out where he should have been following the favourite and coming around it. He wins for sure. He should have won for sure. Should have won it. Should have won by a length, this horse. And now he's got to make the ground up, but the favourite's gone. That's just what I call missing the boat and not realising the favourite in the race. And you've got to know what horses you're following and where they are the favourites.
What did you make of, I'll tell you what, in that race alone, we had Master Hero Chadwick sort of ease up, try to go too slow. Then Luke took off. I didn't mind that move.
Luke was
in
pulling,
this case.
Clint.
Yeah, he was pulling, but Master Hero or Luke?
No, Luke, on Viva
Hunter.
thing, he was tugging down the back.
Yeah, because I think Matthew tried to back off the speed too much. It was a go too slow club, but yeah, I think what Shane's highlighted there are a couple, but there's got to be some notable mentions here. I mean, Luke didn't have a great night at the office. Wagner Borges on that horse that was mentioned earlier from Shane. What was the one that you said there, Shane? Mega Bonus. I don't know what I was watching on that one. He just, it's like he starts to look around where he want to be 3/4 of the way through the race when the game's over. So yeah, they've got to.
If he pushes on first band, it wins for sure, Clint.
Yes.
Well, I blame you, Shane, because you've been pumping up all these jockeys and how well they're riding, and you know what? They just had a little brain fade on Wednesday night. I blame you.
Well, that's okay, but they did. I blame the track, actually, that they don't realise the track. You know, there were some very good rides on that track from, and I don't want to pep them up all the time, but from Zach. The horse in the second race drew gate 9, end up third fence, Island in race 2. What was it, Clint?
Island Surprise.
Island
but it was an
Surprise.
interesting track because, like we said, Shane, I mean, normally you get into that spot and you can't catch them, but there were too many horses on the rail that night that didn't perform, or lane 1 in the straight in particular, not so much the rail and running, but definitely in the straight.
Yeah.
Out wider was better.
Oh, definitely, Clint, and it's never like that. I was very surprised the way the track was. They were coming down the middle, which just doesn't happen on that track. It's always fence up there.
Fourth riders always, never, ever change RS Dye. Let's change pace. Let's talk about the world game. Well, let's talk global racing, courtesy of the Whirlpool. And Shane, I've got to start with you. What was going through the mind of Christophe Soumillon? So much discussion during the week. I haven't heard from you. You know it. You've been there. You've lived it. You've conquered the best in the world. What happened?
I've got no idea. I've watched it many times, and he's had a brain snap and did something which he will regret. No doubt he was looking to give himself some room to come out where he wanted to and to get out. But what he did was wrong. I don't know what to make of it, Richo. I really don't. People are saying he should have got life. I probably disagree to that. Listen, there was a fall in New Zealand about 2 to 3 months ago, and a jockey died, and the other jockey got 2 months. He pushed out at the top of the straight. I haven't seen the video, so I can't comment, but people haven't told me. You can't see the video anymore. He come off, and the horse behind on his outside clipped heels. The jockey fell and died, Japanese kid. Now, that was Sam Witherley, who you'd know. He got 2 months for causing that. Now, Christophe's got 2 months for that. What's right or wrong? I don't know. And
have you ever done that, Shane, when you've been riding?
I've never seen it before. I've never seen it. I see people pushing it. Actually, Eric St. Martin did it to me one day, and he got a long suspension. He actually tried to push me out. He pushed me out of the way, but leaned over, and it was on the video. Clint and films. Clint might have seen it. It was a Group 1 race, and it was down the back, and I was on the favourite. And he really pushed me a lot. How long did he get for that, Clint? Was it 3 months or a month?
I think it was 3 months.
3 months. It was bad. It was bad. And it was similar to that.
The lean is one thing. When he leant, but then it's also the length and then the extension.
Yeah.
That was the bizarre thing for a jockey who's won over 100 Group 1s in his career. He's won a couple of arcs. He's one of the greats.
The issue is as well, I mean, for me, I think you've got to have a more stiff penalty than 2 months. You should have got 12 months on the sidelines, and you need to have some sort of system where you got to be confident that this guy's not going to go out and do the same
Did
thing
he get
again.
lucky?
Does he need some counselling from somebody to say, well, mate, you could have killed somebody?
Did he get lucky because the other jockey wasn't injured? That's the result.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
the penalty.
But I think the penalty for what they charge him, he pretty much got the maximum. But you just can't have that. It's as simple as that.
Did you read the story I wrote on Christophe about 4 months ago now when I rated the top 10, Richard?
No. Where did you have him rated?
He was up there, don't worry, that I've ridden against. He's up there. He's one of the best I've ever ridden against. But it's very interesting to read that. It actually said, Christophe Soumillon's the one jockey in my life I rode against that I always knew where he was in a race, and I would never want to push him out of the way or check him or do anything because he was so tough he would retaliate and ruin my horse's chances. And it's funny how that's come out after I said that 3 months ago. When I wrote that story. It's a good read what I wrote about him. He's outstanding jockey. That was a brain snap. Should he have got longer? Probably. Should he have lost his job? No. That's just ridiculous, losing his job with the Aga Khan, I think. But he should have got longer.
Okay, I will check out that information and that article that you wrote, Shane, and we'll put it up, of course, on Hutchie's Honkers. The Arc de Triomphe is arguably the best race in the world. Each and every year in recent times, it's been on really tough conditions. So Alphanista wins for Sir Mark Prescott and Luke Morris. Verdeni, this star 3-year-old, just misses, runs second. The defending champ down the outside from Germany, and Torquato Tasso runs third. And Al Hakim, another 3-year-old, running fourth. Verdeni just misses, Hutch.
Yeah, just misses. And Christophe didn't sort of edge off the start before, did he? When sort of ended up back inside. But that said, look, it's an elite field. It's as elite as you can get. I don't like it when every year it's on a bog track. I just think it detracts from the race a bit, personally. But well done.
She's an absolute star filly, but I still maintain it's great news that Verdeni is going to race on as a 4-year-old. Shane, I'm going to keep following this guy. I know I keep talking about him, but I love him.
Oh, he's very good. There's no doubt the winner was never going to get beat. Geez, it trapped well on the fence. He gave it a beautiful ride. Didn't go too soon, waited for as long as possible. Ryan Moore's horse, the favourite, had no hope before the race.
Luxembourg.
The wet track, it just ruined his chances. He couldn't win before they went out there.
He ran 7th in the end.
Premium meeting, that one, but obviously we've got a big one as well next week, Richo.
That's right. We'll see Very Elegant there too, a Champions Day at Ascot, and a great opportunity for everyone to bet into that through the World Pool. And what we've seen with the World Pool, the liquidity in the market's unbelievable, and especially at Ascot. So the punters love to bet there, as we see. And these are the top 5 World Pool meetings with the turnover. So during the Royal Meeting, Commonwealth Cup Day, 351.8 million Hong Kong dollars there. Platinum Jubilee Stakes Day, the final day at 340. Goodwood and Nassau Stakes, of course, at Goodwood. And over in South Africa in Champions Cup Day at Greyville. But we're back at Ascot, and this is going to be a magnificent race meeting, highlighted by the best horse in the world, arguably, in Bailly.
Yeah, terrific that he's gone there. And I think they pulled the right rein, sort of sticking to the 2000 effectively, but looking forward to that. And like you said, the good thing about those meetings now with what the Whirlpool's done is, brought everyone together. And if you can have a good bet into a big market, which is fantastic.
Yeah, will you be backing Very Elegant, Shane, or you've seen enough of her over in Europe to suggest that we've seen the best of her?
Not a hope. Even at her best, she wouldn't, I don't think, be up to the good horses there. She's very good. I'm not knocking her. She's won everything in Australia. She's won a Melbourne Cup. It's a different league, those horses there. She might be competitive, but I don't think she will be.
It's a bit harsh. I mean, took on a deb when he went back and was pretty much crowning over there, and they went toe-to-toe here. I think that's a very harsh call, personally.
But maybe on Shane's point, maybe she's just gone off a little late.
She's gone late in her career. 3 runs. 2 of them have been a joke in terms of how they've been run, and I think I'd give her another go for sure.
Well, she's going to get.
I'd give her another go too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get 33 to 1 if you back your opinion in, Hutch, and you'll get about 33 to 1. World Pool will even be better. So a lot of liquidity there. So hey, back your opinion, big boy.
Exactly, that's what we do.
Leave my mate Shane alone.
No, I see where he's coming from. I mean, she can't be the force that she was at this age, can she? But no, I'll be having something on.
She's not 5 or 4 anymore. She's past her best now. So she's going over there at a very hard time, running against very, very good horses. And it was never going to be easy, and it hasn't been easy.
Hey, we all know a little bit about being past our best, don't we? We normally have star power at the moment, but we're going to change pace this week. We're going to learn a bit more about Hong Kong racing with the racing school. Head of Raceday Operations, Tracks and Racing Facilities at Hong Kong is Stephen Higgins. He's our very special guest this week. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Delighted to join you.
We've got a lot of rain here in Australia at the moment. The one thing that I marvel when I watch the Hong Kong racing, the amount of rain that can arrive in these tracks that you have there, by gee, they can recover quickly. Why?
Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate that both tracks were built from scratch. So the sand profiles and the drainage systems that were installed reflect the obvious weather we get here in Hong Kong. So we've seen days where we have 6, 7, 8 inches of rain, and 3 or 4 hours later, the tracks can be raceable, which is astonishing, really. And obviously coming from the Northern Hemisphere, something I hadn't seen before either.
Stephen, just on that note and talk about the watering, just trying to educate a lot of people that are sort of new to Hong Kong racing, or even that have been in Hong Kong racing but don't know much about track management and how you can enlighten us with a bit. The watering program for the tracks, pardon me, the day of, you obviously water the tracks as well. And can you just run us through that process?
Yes, I mean, we're a little bit selective in the watering during the week, running up to race days, because we've always got this fine balance not to try and encourage any bacteria to grow or any disease to grow in the grass. But certainly the day before racing in Sha Tin, our usual program would be around about 18 minutes, which is about 9 millimeters of watering the day before racing. And then we water on the day of racing, usually around about 10 minutes, which is about 5 millimeters, just to keep a bit of moisture in the track, because they do dry very quickly. Obviously, the benefit is they drain very quickly, but they also dry very quickly. One thing that I noticed back in Australia here, we have a system where you have, well, they never really get to a firm 2, but they grade obviously good through heavy tracks from 1, or pretty much from 1 to 10, obviously good for, as you would know. Hong Kong, it's always good to firm. They don't. There's a lot of difference as well in some of your good to firm tracks. Why is it you go good to firm? Obviously, you got your yielding, your soft, but what is there any reason why there hasn't been a sort of different way to analyze the firmness of the tracks? And I know you go from good to firm, but can you run us through that process? Yeah, I mean, very much like Australia, we use the going stick, which is a European device, but we also use a shear vane device. We use a moisture sensor, and we use the penetrometer. We're just considering providing more information to the public so they can see what we can see from those devices. And we don't want to confuse them, but obviously it's important that they get as much information as we can give them. We're also very heavily driven by race times here, partly because the races are run so consistently. So we've always got one eye on what times the horses are running. It's always our ambition to try and provide a good track with a little bit of moisture, but it is a sand-based track, and you don't get that variance that you often see overseas. So our objective is that, but obviously in Hong Kong, and even today, we're trialling at the moment out here on dirt. It's around about 30 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning, so it's very difficult to keep that moisture level in throughout the day, especially with 10 race cards. But we do our very best to make the tracks as safe as possible for our horses.
And what about your philosophy in regards to rail movement?
Yeah, again, we're very fortunate because we race so frequently, and we've got to move the rail. Each of these tracks are doing 40 plus race days a year. Sha Tin, we have a further 10 days of trials, same at Happy Valley. So they do get a lot of work. So we're very fortunate that we move the whole rail out. So we start on what we call an A track, which is what you'd call the course proper. And then we go 4 meters to B, 4 meters to C, and then 3 meters to C plus 3, and then go back to the start. We do vary it a little bit, but that's the general pattern. And we try and end up on the A track on our feature days.
Okay, is that hard to prepare tracks on turf versus dirt? Tell us about the way you maintain the dirt.
Well, the dirt, I mean, obviously it's operated on 365 days a year. It's an American dirt track. So we're always monitoring and sampling the tracks to see what the makeup of those tracks is. It takes we race on the dirt for about 10% of the racing program. So it does do quite a lot of work from a racing perspective, but it's trialled and galloped on every morning. So we're monitoring the sand levels, the silt and clay content, and the organic material content to try and make sure it's got some cushion. But it is difficult with an American dirt. It is a horizontal drainage system, so it relies heavily on sealing the track if we're getting heavy rain.
and it is a bit of a beast to stay on top of, especially given the weather patterns in Asia. But when it's good, it's fantastic, and when it's not so good, it's like watching the American racing, very sloppy and a bit of an unpleasant spectacle.
And with the dirt track that you mentioned, Stephen, I mean, we noticed throughout the year, you mentioned the weather patterns. It really rides quite differently through the year, and we can often, for example, can we explain why some days that the leaders are, it seems like there's an inside rail and they just prove very hard to catch? Why is there that sort of pattern on the dirt more? It's quite significant on occasions at certain times of the year as well.
Yes, it can. I mean, sometimes it just depends about track preparation in the morning. Obviously, if we see rain coming or we think that rain is going to come, then we tend to pack it and seal it in the mornings. And sometimes we'll leave that decision right up to race time. So we don't often get a great deal of opportunity to prepare it exactly as we'd like. So if on those days we do harrow it and it's racing on a harrowed track, the leader tends to have an advantage because obviously on the rail it's the shortest route. And on those days, sometimes the kickback can be worse. So those horses sitting in behind can have a pretty unpleasant experience. And a bit like American tracks, when you get a bit of lift off the track, it is unpleasant for the horses sitting behind and it's difficult for them to finish off. And of course, the straight here on the dirt track is not particularly long. So if you can spin off the bend and you've got a little bit up your sleeve, then it can often play that way. But we're working very hard, certainly on days when the weather's in our favour, to try and even that out and try and provide us level playing field and a chance to every horse in every race.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you as well, because it's one thing when you identify it, but do you actually, through the meeting, if you think, oh, hang on, the inside's a little bit faster here, those horses, do you change the grading system? Because I know after every race, you obviously grade the track. If it's not wet, rain affected, you grade the track. I presume that's still the normal practice?
It is the non-practice, yeah. Again, some days we'd seal back depending on the gap between the races. Generally, the light harrow that we use during racing doesn't affect the lower level preparation, so it wouldn't really play differently. But it's that morning preparation that we often really try hard to get right to make sure that it's as fair as possible. But it is a bit of a beast and it is difficult. Certainly on an afternoon where you might have a dirt race at 1:30 and then the next dirt race at 5:30, it can be quite tricky.
Stephen, not only are you managing all the tracks, but you manage all the facilities as well. Nothing better than a Wednesday night in the beer garden at Happy Valley with the crowd pumping. Are we going to get back to those halcyon days soon?
Well, it was fantastic on Wednesday this week. We had a crowd in the beer garden for the first time for about certainly a year. And they were having a great time. So it was the first time I felt that Wednesday nights were on the way back. And certainly our ambitions through the autumn are to step up the number of people on course at both Happy Valley and Shatin. And our chief executive has stated that, we'd really like to see 50,000 people here for HKIR on the 11th of December. So it's a great objective of ours, and we want to return to normal as quickly as we can.
Stephen, on Wednesday night, was there a band there at the beer garden? And if anyone's in Australia going to go to the race or go to Hong Kong, I always say, make sure you go to the Happy Valley races. As Richo just said, it's unbelievable. There's no experience. Can anybody go to the races now? Is it open up for anyone? And was there a band on Wednesday night?
Okay, there wasn't a band, but we had some live music playing through the system. I would say give it another 3 or 4 weeks and we'll hopefully go back to live music. But you're right, at Happy Valley, it's just the most fantastic environment. It's around about 10 Hong Kong dollars to get in, which is two Aussie dollars. So it's a cheap night out, and there's no atmosphere and no racecourse in the world like it.
Can anyone go again now? Like on Wednesday night, was it open for anyone to turn up?
Yeah, to limited numbers, but hopefully those numbers, we've got to agree in advance with the government how many people we can step up to. So we're in that process at the moment. And by the end of October, we'll be heading back towards normality. So yes, by the end of the month, you should be able to just rock up and pay your $10 and have a fantastic night.
Stephen, forget about a band on a Wednesday night for the international meeting. I think the appearance of the Triple Trio, that would lift things to a whole different level.
Well, certainly if you win it.
That's the name of our show.
Probably the hardest bet that I've ever tried to understand, but they go for it. I think in the last couple of weeks we've had a few roll-ups and people trying to scoop that large amount of money. So long may that continue. And obviously, betting turnover has been solid and significant through COVID. And I think last year our betting turnover was record numbers. So again, there's definitely interest in Hong Kong as a racing product and as a betting product, and we'll keep trying our very best to get maximum fields and fair racing.
I think Stephen deliberately ignored the fact that the triple trio was us three. I was trying to get a gig over there, and that was well played by you.
He probably didn't realise.
No, he realised. He just ignored it. Andrew W. has sent us a message in, Stephen, if you could, talking about how much of a factor wind plays in racing in Hong Kong and whether or not he, who's sitting from afar, can assess through the website as to the wind conditions.
Again, that's another thing that we'd like to provide. We do have a small weather station here on site in Sha Tin. Happy Valley, there's very little impact because of the nature of the track and its proximity to the city centre. But here we do often get a little bit of wind affected races. So we'll pick up on that and make sure that we're providing that in the going report.
You've been there 5 years. You're enjoying it still?
Yeah, I mean, Hong Kong's a wonderful place. The people are fantastic. The organisation is incredibly professional. The racing is very of the highest standard. Obviously, like everybody, and you guys in Australia went through a fairly torrid time with COVID as well. It's been tough in that respect. But now things are opening up and travel can start again. And I believe the Asian Racing Conference will be down in Melbourne in February. So, travel's a big part of living in Asia, and hopefully we'll be back to some level of normality as the year or the season progresses.
We'll buy you a beer when you come down, Stephen.
I look forward to that. Maybe I'll have 3.
Actually, Stephen, you can buy us a beer when we see you in December. You'll be able to afford Hutchi and I, but getting Shane Dye there might be tough.
Rich, I've never had a beer in my life, and I'm not about to start now. Never one.
Very sensible. Well, we look forward to seeing you here in December, and hopefully we'll have significant international participation. We're working on that at the moment, and obviously usually Japan supports us very well, but we're hoping to get some big European contingents as well, and I'm really trying to get HKIR back to where it was.
Yeah, fantastic. Stephen, thanks so much for your time. We really enjoyed the chat.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Well, let's find some winners on Sunday. Hutch, and we'll start with race number 3. You've cast your eye over it and set a market here. What do you want to do?
Well, we've got obviously the return of Campione to the all-weather surface, which is going to ensure that he's very popular, particularly with Zach Purton and often as well that effort behind Lucky Sweetness. Look, I've got him marked $1.87. I think I can't get him really much shorter than that. Winning Dream is a really interesting runner on this surface for the first time. We're going to run through his pedigree shortly. Silver Fig's a prolific winner. But this was Campione. What I liked about this particular performance on the turf, and he's adept at both surfaces, but he didn't necessarily lead on this occasion. He took a trail. He kept on well. Yes, he carried a light weight, but he's a talented horse. This race rated well. He comes back in grade. He goes up in weight, but you've got Zach Purton on a surface that he likes. He's going to be very, very hard to beat.
He looks like winning, Clint. Like he's had 2 goes on the dirt, right? And I think he ran I've got it here, 1.7.92, and he ran 1.8.18. Well, he's going to run that he's just going to lead, and he's going to be very hard to beat. Very, very hard. Even with the weight, I don't think that's going to worry him.
I think it was on this show, wasn't it, when he just leading into his first all-weather run, and forget the jockey.
Luke Ferraris.
Was it Luke who said, hey, this will really suit him?
Yeah, he said something like that. Yeah. But anyway.
I tipped him, boys, and backed him.
You did tip him, Shane, but Winning Dream is an interesting one because this horse was played with bad barriers last season, and he gets a nice run. And I wanted to reference our Group 1 gold mine form, and this is just a pedigree chart because he's by Deep Field, and Winning Dream is also out of a Danehill mare, but he's got this Danzig line. So you got the Danzig line with the elusive quality, Mr. Prospector everywhere through that. This horse cries out that he will handle the all-weather track. And when you got that Danehill Deep Field cross, just the impact analysis, what this tells us is that you're 4.4 times more likely than the algorithm set by Group 1 Gold Mine to get a stakes winner. That gold is absolute gold. So Deep Field, obviously Australian-based, doesn't get a lot of dirt, but when we look through the pedigree of this horse with that elusive quality, and there's Mr. Prospector lines, this is a horse that's really going to handle this service. Now, whether or not he's good enough to beat Campione is another matter. His first up run was rather plain, but he's often Shane trolled well on this surface. He gets a nice run on the fence, probably behind Campione, and I think that he might be one that could be discarded to an extent by the market and could be interesting.
Could be. I thought the one would be Majestic Star. He's got a perfect gate, which is the outside 7. He can just come across and sit outside Campione as long as he leads. There's not a lot of pace in it. Most of them race off it, apart from probably We the South. It can go. But Majestic Star has one on the dirt. His first up run was very, very good. And he never goes bad, that horse. So I had him second, Clint.
Race 8, once again on the all-weather, Class 3, 1,200 metres. You've assessed here. Zach's riding Main Star.
Yeah, I'll be Man Star. I'll be marking him favourite. I had done my preliminary pricing with him, but it's interesting because Zach, of course, rode Zarson last start. A few of these come out of the key race with the winner that Shane really liked in Super Wind Dragon. But obviously, Zach felt that Manstar was a better rider, and you can understand why when you look at the head-to-heads, etc. But, you know, he tracked the speed. He didn't have any excuses. Super Wind Dragon blew him away. But Zach, the problem with Zarson is that he's just tactically, he doesn't have that early pace, and you can see Manstar up on speed here. Yeah. That's where you want to be on the all-weather, if you can be. You want to be prominent. Shane's often said he loves wide draws. It's perfect for him. He can work across from there, and it's going to be hard to see Zarson turning the tables to an extent. But it's also, we saw that track on that day, it was rain affected. It's going to play probably, provided I believe the weather will be finer, it'll be more like a true all-weather track, but that'll only, I think, probably help Manstar a little bit more.
There's actually not many in the race going well, Clint. It's not a strong Class 3 dirt. Normally you get 4 or 5 that can win, but you know, the things that have been trialling haven't been trialling great, and the things that have come back from a run have been average, apart from the 2 you mentioned, Manstar and
Zarson.
Yeah, well, there's one that I think is worth a definite forgive, and this is the horse that I'll probably be having something small on the day in Spontaneous, because they rode him first up upside down. They went forward and just put too much pressure on him at Happy Valley, but he was impressive on the all-weather last season, and I think you'll see a more patient ride, and this is a horse that's well-suited here under the weights, at the weights, and Spontaneous is going to be one that we'll have involved, and I think we'll be able to play him as well, because Zach's going to be pretty short on Manstar. There'll be a little bit of value around Spontaneous.
Have you really thought that through?
I have thought that through, thank you.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, I actually agree with him, Richo. It's definitely got a chance. He was given no hope first up. He rode him too hard to lead, which isn't his go, and he weakened, and he likes the dirt. He was impressive and ran time when he won on the dirt. So with 115 pounds, he's definitely not the worst.
It's all right, Shane. We've got Richo cracking dad jokes now and laughing at them himself, which is proving quite entertaining.
Mate, he won't be too much laughing when he's going to get to this luncheon very late. They blow him up, aren't you? Yeah, we'll keep him on here for longer, Clint.
Mate, I'll just storm in there and just drop the mic and just let rip. The turf, let's get back there. Race number 9, 1,400 metres.
One of the more exciting horses that runs here on the meeting, Circuit 9, unbeaten as a Griffin. He's 2 from 2. And for those that don't know what a Griffin is, it's effectively like a 2 or 3-year-old maiden race, and then they come back the following season. And, so he started his career in Hong Kong against other unraced horses. But he looks quite an exciting prospect. Don't be put off by his trial. For those that looked at his trial, to my eye, he's a horse that takes a bit of winding up. I'm not surprised Tony Cruz has gone straight to 1,400 metres with him. But this has got one horse that he'll probably have to beat in Casa Papa, who's back on the fence there. Mr. Ascendancy went on to win this, but Casa Papa was very unlucky. Probably maps to get a reasonably good run this time again, and I think he could run well. He's definitely come back well this preparation, Casa Papa, so he's going to be one of in the contingent that could certainly provide I think Shane some resistance.
Oh, definitely. He should have won. He ran really well that day. I'm a little bit worried about the form from that race. They all went across the line together, and they went very fast early, and they come back. And I think the leader kicked on and ran third. So I'm just a little bit worried about the form. I thought Decrypt could run a race fresh. His trial was very good, and he ended the season last season really well. The trainers' horses are racing well. Not many are winning, but they're always there. I'm a little bit worried about Circuit 9. I don't think he was overly impressive last season, even though he won. And his trials, he's got no hope. But when you go back and look at his trials last season on the dirt before he won, he did the same. So, Clint, you are right. I wouldn't have too much thought put into the trials. But I can't have him. I want to see him do it. But Casa Papa's the one to beat.
Yeah, but what he's done was he's got a good turn of foot Circuit 9, 22-1, 22-7, his final 400s. He's better on the turf. 1400's perfect for him. He's still a little bit new, and it's not easy for the Griffins up in that grade. But yeah, there's a value runner in it. Quadruple double, I think, up in grade with the claim. He'll run well. Aeromo's a danger. It's a competitive race, but I'll be sticking with Circuit 9, maybe, and some Quinellas with those horses we've mentioned.
Up to Class 2 for race 10 over 1,400 metres.
Really good race. This is a beauty to finish the day with. I'll be interested to see what Shane thinks here, because we've got the format of this race will stack up extremely well through the season. There are some rippers in here. I'm going to mention 3 in particular: the Irishman Keefe, but more so Galaxy Witness. This horse has won 4 from 5. He suffered defeat at the hands of all for St Paul's last season, who's come out and won since. But he probably had enough by that stage of the preparation. It was also up to the mile. Look, I don't know whether or not the mile's ideal for him or not. It probably will be in time. But look at this trial from him. He sat out the back. He wasn't really pushed. This is almost like one of Shane Dye's old trials, although he would have probably still been out of picture and hanging on even more to them. But this was a great piece of work working home, and I think that might be even decrypted the grey back in the middle of them. So he seemed to work pretty well. But Galaxy Witness, he's got that right profile, doesn't he? Casper Found's going particularly well. He's won 4 from 5. He's drawn to get a nice run. He's beautifully weighted. I looked at his peak figures from last season, and I'm expecting more. He's a horse that's going to keep going on the upward spiral. He's a great chance in a quality lineup. But outside of that, Shane, we've got Keefe, who's also trial well, and the Irishman seem to trial well down the straight as well, and they're both very talented horses.
This is a really good race. I can make a case for nearly every horse. Like the Golden Scenery run well the other day. Irishman trialled well. Packing Victory went well. Sylvester went well. Navis 2 was ridden too close, but still went well. From gate 11, he'll go back further and probably go better. So what about Apache Pass run? He's improved 6 to 7 lengths, that horse. Over 1,000 metres. He went enormous. So there's a lot of horses there. Keefe, as you said, has got an awkward gait, but he'll go forward. Galaxy Witness is definitely going higher, Clint. I'm not convinced he'll run a mile, even though he looks as though he will. He's by Star Witness, and most of them are sprinters, So that's what's in the back of my mind. And last year, he should have won that mile easy. Like, he had the best run in the race. He come out, and he was going to go past the other horse.
And he did come out into quicksand, though. It was clearly better on the rail that day. That was a significant bias, and we saw a lot of horses pull out onto that part of the track. But I'm with you. I agree. I think 14's right in his sweet spot.
He's got no weight, good gait, although he won't be in the first few. He'll be midfieldish, I would think. I think he's the horse to beat. But, Clint, that's a really good race, and I actually think that's probably the best race we've had this season, where there's a lot of nice, promising young horses coming back. And it's a very open race.
Okay, it could be a field job in the quaddie by the sound of that.
We're not going field. I think it's one of the best bets of the day, Galaxy Witness. I mean, at the weights. And I would say take a Quinella with the Irishman and Keefe. I think the cream will rise. A lot of the others, like Shane said, you can make a case for them, but I can't have any knock on what Galaxy's done so far.
I love it.
He's the horse that's going high, like Group 1 company in the race, definitely.
Let's talk best bets for a Sunday. And do we launch in the last? Do we save? Do we wait? Do we wait and go launch?
I think what Shane said about this being a very competitive race, I'm hoping there's a lot of betting. I mean, the horses like Keefe and all of those horses that Shane mentioned, they're going to take a fair bit of market support with them, and I'm hoping that means that Galaxy Witness is a backable price.
What is backable?
Look, I think we're going to have to sort of it's going to have to have a 3 in front of it.
Yes,
that's for sure. You have to have a 3 in front of it, otherwise he's going to be too short. So hopefully he's in that sort of realm. But there's good. I think the Quinella, the Irishman, the biggest plus for him, Zach Purton, and I think this is his go. They've tried him over further last season with the Derby, 1,400 mile for me. That's under Tavistock. And Keefe's another one that's really headed in an upward trajectory as well.
Anything else jumping off the page that we should be playing?
I think Campione obviously is going to be tough to beat, that's for sure. So Campione on the dirt will be a huge chance of winning. And I'm going with the Circuit 9 to keep the ball rolling and make it 3 from 3. So those would be definitely 3 horses that I'm interested in.
RS Dye, the pen is poised, my brother from another
tell you
mother.
what, I'm off the ball here tipping because I got to go too soon. I haven't.
Mate, you're never off the boil. You've never been off the boil in your life.
Yeah, no, they haven't won the last 2 weeks, I think. But the thing 3 weeks ago did at 550, so still a profit. I'll go race 1. Yes, we can. Gate 1. Zach should have probably won the other day. Not should have. It definitely should have won the other day. He's going to get a good run. He goes well second up. He's going to be short on the dirt. He should probably win tomorrow. On Sunday, I should say.
Race 1, number 7 in the Flamingo handicap is Yes We Can. Did you say Zach? Yes, you did say Zach. And believe it or not, we've got some magnificent prizes that are available. Now, this is how you enter. If you subscribe to the Triple Trio on YouTube or share this link via Twitter and tag at Hutchie's Honkers, you will go in the running and we will announce the winners who will get these magnificent Zach Purton collector's card sets.
There they are, right there. Beauties they are. Sideline series.
Brilliant stuff.
Get involved with that. Click on the links.
HutchiesHonkers.com,
Richo,
of course.
I slept with him the other night, Zach.
Did you?
Yeah.
Take us through it. Take us through the highs and lows of that.
Sent me some T-shirts. I always sleep with a T-shirt on. And I woke up in the morning, I had it on, and I rang him up, actually. I said, Zach, I slept with you last night. He said, what the F are you talking about? And I put him on FaceTime, and I showed him the T-shirt, Zach Purton, and he lauged.
Oh,
it's a comfortable T-shirt.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'll be running with him, and I don't know if I'll be sleeping in a hat, but I might be sleeping in that hoodie because that looks fantastic.
Hey, Richo, I sleep in a hat, mate. My beanie. When it's winter, I always have it there just in case I get cold. I'm sure you've got these at home with a head like yours.
I've got, mate. You live on the Gold Coast. When would you ever be that cold?
Mate, I've got to keep warm.
Oh, I love you. Hey, mate, good punting on the weekend as always. Brilliant to get your insights, Shane. Have a great weekend.
Get to that lunch, Richo. Hurry up, mate.
I'm off. Hutchbuster, a lot of fun. HutchiesHonkers.com. Make sure you subscribe. The great man's in awesome form.
Yep. Have a good one this weekend. All the best and have a good lunch.
Yeah, happy punting, everyone. Thanks for watching The Triple Trio.